Is the Bible full of contradictions? That's a claim that we've made. There's atheistic websites that list hundreds of contradictions that are in the Bible. But is that true? Well, first we have to define what is a contradiction. A contradiction is not just two stories that have sort of telling things from a different vantage point. A contradiction is two claims that cannot possibly be true at the same time. In other words, I cannot say that I have a $5 bill in my wallet at the same time and in the same way that I do not have a $5 bill in my wallet. Those two things cannot be true at the same time and in the same way. One of the most talked about contradictions in the Bible is who came to the tomb to witness the empty tomb after Jesus died. Well, let's look. We have 4 stories about that. In Matthew chapter 28, verse 1, it says, "Now after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week," that's Sunday, "Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb." So we have Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, 2 women. In Mark chapter 16, verses 1 to 2, it says, "When the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome," now we have 3 people, "brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb." So now we have 3 women. In Luke chapter 24, it says, "Now it was Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women." So now it introduces Joanna and other women with them who told these things to the apostles. These were the women that had gone to the tomb in Luke, beginning of Luke 24. And finally, in John chapter 20, verse 1, it says, "Now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb." Now, which one of these stories is true? Obviously, these are in conflict, or are they? Let's say I was telling you a story. In August 16th of 2021, I went hiking up Mount Washington. That was kind of an item on my bucket list. Well, who went with me? Well, me and my son Andrew. We went together. We hiked up Mount Washington. Now, let's say Andrew tells the story to someone else, and he says, "I went up Mount Washington with my dad, Kris, and my uncle, Terrence." Now I said 2 people went up Mount Washington. My son Andrew, on the same day at the same time in the same hike, say 3 people went up. And now imagine we asked my brother, Terrence, about hiking up Mount Washington, and he might share the story and say, "Oh, Kris, Andrew, JP, and Gianni hiked up Mount Washington." Now the question is, which one is right? See, when you look at it this way, it's obvious all of us can be right because we're just listing certain parts of the full picture, certain parts of the full story. For me, I really enjoyed bonding with my son Andrew, and so that's kind of the highlight and what I want to point out. So the question is, which one of these were right in the Gospels? The answer is yes. All of them were right. There is no contradiction here. All of these women went to the tomb. It's just John is focused on Mary Magdalene. Mark is focused on Mary and Mary, the mother of James and Salome. And Matthew is focused on Mary Magdalene and the other Mary. And Luke is focused on Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and other women because they all went. They're just telling the same story from different vantage points, all of which are true. None of them are saying, if one of them said Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and another one said Mary Magdalene did not go to the tomb, that would be a contradiction. All of these are very consistent. And this is the type of contradictions we see on the list of contradictions. Another type, I went to the American Atheist website for their list of contradictions, and all of them are just complete nonsense if you really understand the Bible. In Exodus, one they give is this one. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, it says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy." That's one of the 10 commandments. But in Romans chapter 14, verse 5, Paul writes, "One man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind." So Paul's saying, you may consider one day holy, you may consider another day holy, but just be convinced in your own mind and decide what day to worship God and to make holy. Now, how could that be true? Well, one, Exodus was written to the Israelites. It was God's law to the people of Israel. And so his command to them was remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. And so for them, that was their law. Romans was not written to the Jews under the Old Covenant. When you understand this, you could see why these two things are telling two different things, because they're not even addressed to the same people. And we see a lot of times they'll take something from Proverbs, which is wisdom literature, which has a lot of figures of speech, compared to a command in like Paul's letters or something. Two different testaments, two different audiences, and two different genres. There are no contradictions in the Bible, and I've gone through lists and lists and lists of them, and there's none. The Bible is accurate, it is perfect, it is inspired by God, and we can have confidence that what we are reading is the Word of God translated accurately into English.